So I just wanted to take a look back at some of the videos I've made in the past and sort of give my thoughts on what I would do differently. And I thought it would be a great idea to start with Salience of Siege because it was the first video I made that was fully scripted, and it was the one that I had the most planning and thought put into. So I'm going to go over this, give some commentary on it, and then hopefully by next week I'll have a remastered version where I'll just rewrite it and make a new one with the same general principles. And I don't know, I'll call it like Salience of Siege, the sequel, maybe part 3. Well, we'll see it when we get there.
In my short time with Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, about 6 months now.
It's now been closer to 18 months, I think.
I've discovered an incredibly competitive and invested community of people.
I threw that clip in there because of freaking hit reg. It doesn't make any sense, but anyways.
Invested community of people who, by and large, are working their damnedest to win a match.
I wouldn't swear in a scripted video again. I definitely wouldn't script in swear words again. I think that it really took away from the message, to have me being very vindictive and upset. So I wouldn't write it that way again.
No matter the cost. This is obviously not always the case, but even in matches where some people don't care at all, some individuals are so invested they'll take their frustrations out on people who aren't trying hard enough.
This is still true, and it's me now. I'm that guy now. Especially if you watch some of TMG's newer videos, or Titan as he is on YouTube now, you'll notice that I'm the guy who always wants to be on the winning team. I'm very, very competitive nowadays, and I've sort of become what I preached against, which I think is interesting. Maybe it's just that new players are more frustrated with losing and they want everyone to chill out, but then you get more into the game and you want everyone to try harder because you stop blaming yourself and then you start blaming your team once you get more competent at the game. It's just a thought.
This sort of hyper-competitive mindset is common among video game players that I've met in the past.
Yeah, and that's me now.
But I wonder about how frequent this sort of thing is in other games. Another favorite game of mine, Warframe.
Funny thing, don't play Warframe anymore. I have 350 hours in that game. I haven't touched it in a year and a half, because it was so complex and grind heavy that I just gave up on it. And now that I'm almost done getting all the operators in Siege, I don't know what I'll really do anymore, because I was really crazy about the idea of getting all the characters, but now that there's only going to be one every like 6 months or 3 months or so, I don't know where my motivation to keep playing is going to come from.
Has the same level of complexity as Siege in terms of damage, operator selection.
I would argue nowadays that Warframe is actually much more complicated than Siege in terms of like damage output and such. The only real things to worry about in Siege are your gun's base damage output, armor, and then Rook armor. Like, not very much else affects how much damage is dealt, but in Warframe it's much more complex. So
kit, passive abilities, weapons, secondaries, and even a whole host of extra complexity found in the melee weapon system, the operator abilities, and other factors that drive up the learning curve into a learning cliff. Despite this similarity, in my experience, people who play Siege are more competitive and more likely to lash out at people who aren't playing the most effective way. People who put a deployable in a subpar place might find themselves shouted at by experienced players. People who fail to bandit trick might get screamed into oblivion as their team is filled with lead.
It's a little overdramatic, Chief. Like, calm down.
And people who commit the cardinal sin of failing to reinforce site before roaming are sent into the team kill corner on the next round, assuming the team is angry enough.
Again, like a little over aggressive. Like, people in casual don't TK over reinforcements. I It doesn't happen very often. So I think I was exaggerating for some dramatic flair there, but my delivery wasn't wasn't like dramatically phrased, even though the actual words were dramatic. So I would change how that was said in a new video.
Warframe is a PvE style game, players versus environment, or AI enemies. At least the parts of the game people play are. Sorry, Conclave.
Conclave is still dead. That hasn't changed at all.
And the nature of it encourages people to experiment and come up with unique ideas and playstyles, due to the nature of the modding system in that game. So despite the added complexity, the meta, or most effective tactics available.
I actually had to Google that when I was recording this video. Like, what exactly does meta mean? Because I wanted to define it, and I found out it's actually an acronym. I thought that was pretty cool. Because I thought it was just referring to, like, metagaming, but it's not. Metagaming is a Dungeons and Dragons term where players in character have information, or players out of character have information that their characters don't, and they still use that information. It's called metagaming, and it's frowned upon.
Is changing all the time as more people discover new ways to play the game efficiently, or in the case of content creators, more bombastically. This means that the rules of the game are ever-flowing and ever-changing, as there are so many things to change or work on that almost every Warframe operator has a viable meta build that will guarantee victory in nearly all situations.
This is not true. There are definitely Warframes in Warframe that are much, much more strong and are much, much better for specific situations, like Nidus in survival missions, or what's his name, Limbo in sabotage missions. Like, they're, as long as you have access to a greater variety of Warframes, you can play any mission solo in like less than 10 minutes easily. So just an interesting little thing that I thought I should add is that even though you can make Warframes very, very strong in most situations, not every Warframe is even usable, I would say, in some situations. Obviously, yes. So in Warframe, you have situations where, the Warframes are so variable. You can change so many things about them. The ability augments being the main thing that you can do with them that just drastically changes how they play. But in Siege, you have the gadget, you have the secondary, and you have, like, if you're a defender, you have defaults, and if you're an attacker, you have drones. And pretty much nothing else changes. The real complexity in Siege, I think, comes from where you deploy your gadgets and how you reinforce or open walls. And that's where the actual, like, competitive aspect of the games comes through, except, of course, for gunplay.
Playing Twitch with the F2 means turning your mouse pad sideways so you can control recoil all the way through the magazine.
Yeah, I actually did that for the longest time. I had a sideways mouse pad because I had very low sensitivity, but I've actually gotten used to that sense now, and I'm running the mouse pad normally again.
Playing Nomad means air jabbing runouts and the doors into sight once you've made a push. Playing Doc means you're going for a spawn peek and dying in the first 5 seconds of every fucking round.
Again, with the swearing, I wouldn't script that in again. I would never. I just find it irritating to listen to, like in what's meant to be a serious commentary video, to have the commentator just swearing. It doesn't make any sense.
What are you doing?
Especially when it's like so theatrical like this. It just doesn't make any sense.
And so it goes on. This sort of rigidity is mostly found when teams of people are try-harding, a term in the game that refers to teams who are doing their damnedest to win and win fast.
I feel it's necessary at this point, especially to point out that this entire discussion of people getting salty in Siege, it's completely about casual. Okay? Like, I'm not arguing that in unranked or in ranked you shouldn't be trying to win the game. I'm arguing that in casual, it's meant to be a fun game mode where you don't have to be worried about your rank or, your alpha packs.
Usually this refers to toxic plays, such as Clash, which is an op that's toxic all on its own.
I play Clash now frequently. I've played her like 4 or 5 times since I got her. Every time we win the round. So like, yeah, I'm a man of great virtuous standing.
Or bullet holes, or runouts, or shooting through drone holes. All of this stuff is frowned on because people can't easily counter them with the kit they have on their own. They require teamwork and no small amount of awareness. Learning every drone hole on every map is a years-long undertaking unless you study like a college student on Adderall.
While I really love the analogy of college student on Adderall, um, I don't like the implication that you need to learn every drone hole on every map in order to play competitively. You don't. You don't. You do need to be aware of your direct surroundings and, you know, what's above and below you at all times, pretty much. And that does take a good degree of map learning that even I haven't done yet, even after a year and a half of play. So, you know, like it's a funny analogy, though. I still think it's funny.
Learning every Clash counter will take a 20-minute video from Get Flanked on YouTube, and nobody has time for that.
Obviously, you know, Nomad is the most ideal situation. Or, you know, Sledge with a grenade. But, you know, it's all a matter of perspective, really. Like, a good Clash player will try not to be so engaged with the enemy that they die to a Nomad charge. But, like, a good Nomad player will make sure that facing a Clash, you make sure to get him down. So, you know, it's a pointless discussion to have, really, because at the end of the day, Clash is killable. But she's just more complicated to kill than point and click, like every other defender.
Learning runout counters takes a Nomad who costs 20,000 renown, or roughly 15 hours of playtime in the casual playlist.
Okay, so this is where, in my scripting, I got turned around. And for the next, like, I don't even know, like 5 minutes, all I talk about is operator pricing. Which is
decision making. If you're attacking in the first round, the entire defending team is anchoring.
So there's this, and then I go on to this tangent about like how you need good different operators to fill different roles, and that you can't do that once you're getting started out in the game. Now that I have more attackers and defenders and operators, I have all but like 3 of them, I think. Obviously, I don't struggle with this anymore, so I think I would have a different perspective on it. I think that, generally speaking, playing the game through the way I did isn't the best way to do it, because the way I play through the game on this account is that I played on a base account. I started out with recruits only, back before the recruit rework, so it wasn't even that good. And then I worked my way up through the year 1, year 2, year 3 operators, and I've just now finished getting the year 4 ops after a year and a half. And I don't think that was very good for me, because I was always, like, instead of focusing on learning the operators I had at the moment, I was always, you know, looking forward to getting the next operator that I wanted to have. Like, this sort of, like, bottomed out around the time that I got Nook and Warden. That's when I really started to, like, play the older ops and really start to understand them better and play them better. Like, with Bandit, obviously, he's a very important member of your team, and I've learned to play him on defense well enough for my rank, which is not very high. But if you don't have all the options available to you from the start, it's very difficult to learn from the start what sort of things you should be gunning for. So, like, I could have been a Gridlock main for all this time and not even have known it, because I didn't get her until, like, 2 days ago. So
You need specialized ops to effectively counter rushing, like Capcan, Melusi, Smoke, Frost, or
also, this is a non-argument, because you can get Capcan after like an hour.
Castle. This is where the issues creep up. In your first week of play,
Again, first week of play, you can get all the year 1 ops. So, like, this isn't, like, even just playing like a couple hours every night, you can get 1,000 renown, which is what you need for the year 1 ops. Or not the year 1 ops, the Pathfinder ops. Once you have the Pathfinder ops, you have a really good starting point, because you have access to most of the specialized utility, because you have Thatcher for countering counter hard breachers, and then you have thermite for straight up hard breaching. So once you have the Pathfinder ops, you have a very good starting point, because a lot of the greatest ops in the game are still the Pathfinder ops, because they were the most well designed, they were the most well integrated into how the game was designed from the beginning. So it's really a non-argument to say that, you know, it's so difficult to play operators to counter a specific playstyle. Like there's on attack you have rushing, you have slow pushing, and you have like area denial, right? On defense you have options to deal with all that, like Jaeger for a slow push, you have Capcan for rushing. So I don't think it's a really good argument to say that you need these operators to effectively counter attacking players or defending players in this case. There is a point to be made about Nomad being a very important part of competitive play on many maps, such as Consulate. But I don't agree with the notion that it's absolutely integral to have access to that operator, because you have teammates and they have access to operators, and once you get up to like level 30 or so, a lot of those people will start having been people who like bought the Ultimate Edition or whatever, and they have access to all of them. So if you just ask them, hey, can you hop on Nomad? We're on Consulate. I don't want to deal with that right now. It's not that big a deal.
You have no idea in what order to unlock the default operators.
Okay, in order, that is a good point. I will say that I agree with that still. It is confusing to try and work out who you should get first. So that's a good point.
The guy just isn't locking them in order or completely dependent on tastes. I got a hold of Alibi before I got Bandit.
I don't know if that's true, honestly. I don't remember exactly. I mean, I probably would have remembered better back when I wrote this, but I'm pretty sure I had all the Pathfinder ops before I started unlocking DLC ops. I might have been thinking of, like, Buck or something. I know I got Alibi before I got Maestro.
Which isn't entirely wise, and that's why I dislike this system.
Nice shot, idiot.
I think that the addition of a recommended unlock or an essential tag on the operator screen could be massively useful.
That is a good point. I still agree with that. I still think that's a good idea. Having like an essential tag for Bandit because he's a hard breach denier, very good idea. Because you're almost always going to want to have hard breach denial for your team, because, you know, or mute even, because intel denial, Mozzie, you know, like a lot of these operators that have very specialized tasks that are very useful to have in defense, and you don't know anything about that unless you like tab in and read it and understand exactly how it works. And as a new player, you typically don't.
Where operators that serve an important task like anti-breach, hard breach, drone denial, intel denial, or entry denial have a clearer presence to the bewildered noob with 1,000 renown and not a single clue.
That took like 6 takes when I was recording, by the way. That took me so long to get properly.
Now, I know that other people have different experiences than me.
And this is when I get into the interviews. And the interviews, I don't really want to commentate on because I don't think they matter that much. Like, sorry, Rixie, but a lot of what you do is just agree with me. And a lot of what I say is pretty meaningless.
2020?
Yeah. No, that would be Void Edge.
Because like we literally spent 3 minutes like talking about like how long you've been playing the game. It's
has it changed?
I don't remember if the rest of this is just interviews or not. I think I do.
Do you think you
post interview analysis, but I don't remember. Like I know I interviewed TMG at one point. He's over here, and we talk about stuff.
Burger King foot lettuce.
Like not very not very intelligent stuff, but stuff nonetheless.
And obviously you're allowed to talk for as long as you like.
When I first started playing, the first time I like played the game for myself. Like I'd played a couple games like throughout the years on like a friend's PC or things like that, but and that's when I was playing, I'm pretty sure.
Started the game. So
Best,
what do you think is the best thing that could possibly happen in a defense and attack round? And what did you used to think?
That's a it's a garbage question, honestly, because essentially what I'm asking him is, hey, what's the objective of the game, bro? You know, like why would you say anything other than winning? Like I should have phrased that entirely differently, but I think he understood what I meant.
Well, what I used to think usually, I had like selected operators that I would pick.
Mhm.
I still kind of do the same thing where I have the 2 anchors, which one would be in each site, and even
Don't plant backwards like that in that spot, by the way. You're supposed to look at your opponents.
those anchors could move around a little. Like they don't have to be in sight; they can move around a little bit. And
That's true. He's right. You know, you don't have to stick in sight the entire time as an anchor. You know, you can hold stairwells and points of entry. Like holding 90 in coastline is generally a really good idea as an anchor,
there's 2
especially if you have intel out there.
light roamers, which would go around the site, just that general area. And then the 5th player would be a heavy roamer, whether it be like Cav or like, for all you care, like Legion, like just someone that can move around quickly throughout the map and get those quick little picks, whether it's just hit the enemy a couple times or get that kill, and then just gone, just out of there, going around to a completely separate location to just keep it fresh. That was like the preferred like setup. I like, again, like there's just things have changed so much now with operators from like when I first thought of this thing to now. So it's like it's kind of like it's just hard.
And yeah, we talk about like how the meta has changed over time. And I think looking back on this video, the meta has changed since this video even, because of how as good Aruni is, and how Wamai made a big difference in the competitive scene, as well as Jaeger and Ace. All the year 5 ops, with the exception of maybe Yana and Oryx, have been really important to the competitive scene. I think this is when the interview stops.
Let's review. So the basic principle seems to be that the meta isn't solidified in Siege, at least in terms of people who've only been playing the game for a little while, or not since release.
Obviously the meta still isn't. There's no hard meta. Like for a certain site, there are many different strats that are all tried and true, but there's not usually just one that has always worked. Like there are some that are very effective. Like there's only like 2 different ideas for defending bar on Clubhouse, I believe, and they're both kind of shaky and difficult to do because of how spread out you need to have your utility. So your prep phase is usually very strained. I don't remember the video I saw that on, but the general principle is that there's always a new thing to try out, especially as a newer player, and you never know what might work or what might not until you try it out because of how much variability there is to playing around in Siege.
And since most people don't agree on a meta for attack or defense, that offers flexibility and confusion. Some people on the team will argue with each other because they want to compete and they want to win. And these arguments can poison the team play that makes the game what it is. And part of that team play is callouts. That's right, seamless segue, boys. There's too many of them. I shouldn't say too many. There's exactly as many as there are, and there's nothing really that can be done about it, but it's the part of the game that takes the most time to get a grasp on. You need to learn every part of.
I disagree with this now. I think that it absolutely takes longer to learn sound cues and dial in your aim, honestly. Like, to dial in your aim is something that I still haven't done, and I've been playing for a year and a half, but I've learned most of the callouts on most maps. I think that it's absolutely a problem if you don't, know a lot of the callouts still. But I think that you could learn them a lot faster than I did if you actually put the time in. So like it's all about like what you want to focus on to start out with, and me phrasing it as it takes the most time is not true. It's like get a Quizlet or something, get a little Quizlet page just about Siege callout. I wonder if that's real. Like a little tangent here. So this is all the gadgets. Okay. Weird that that's a thing and I didn't even know about it.
every map of every room, of every shelf or table or desk. That's an exaggeration, but
Yes, it is an exaggeration. Usually, there are names for certain desks and stuff in the game. Like, I think this one is just, library desk by the door. I would just say he's on the desk in library by the door, but it's not very specific. So I know that Super for one would probably not infer well enough because he really needs like a direct and specific call out, like the actual like community call out for that sort of thing.
This info, it makes a huge difference during gameplay, and a single wrong call out can cost you a round or a match.
Still true. Yeah, I don't argue with that at all.
And in order to get operators faster and compete more, you need to win matches.
That was it. Nice shot, idiot. Also true. You do need to win matches to get more renown, to get more operators. But, you also get renown when you lose matches, and you drop down a little bit in casual MMR when you lose matches, so you play against people more at your skill level. So, it's not so bad. And also, it depends on who you queue with, because if I queue with my buddy TMG, his casual MMR is somewhere in plat, so I always lose those games. But, I'm playing with my friend to play with my friend.
Did I mention earlier? You only get about half the renown if you lose, because the renown system is linked to the point system, and you get about 1,000 to 1,500 points for winning a match. Without that boost at the end, you're looking at about 100 renown, or the reward for 5 stacking in a terrorist hunt against bots.
You could also do that in a 3-stack.
So the point I'm trying to get across with this video is that I think this game has a few issues when it comes to the learning curve, and the competitors
And this is just sort of
new to complex.
I think
This
it's
leads
just
to a sort of
basically a summary.
people who are so unsure of themselves that they try their best to go unnoticed in a team game. Thanks for watching.
So all in all, I don't hate this video. I think that there's absolutely a lot of improvements that could be made to it, and they will be. Cross my heart, promise. New upload next week. It's going to be the remaster, the remake, and then after that, I'm going to upload another gameplay video with the group. So that should be fun. Thanks for watching, guys. This is going to be pretty much unedited, so hopefully it'll be up by the end of the night. Thanks for watching. Bye.